for Aplift. We're a mobile marketing company, and I'm really fortunate and lucky to be able to be here and moderate a panel with some even more successful and intelligent people than myself. So please, let's kick it off. Let's introduce ourselves.
Cool. Hi guys, I'm Sarah Bidnick. I'm the head of marketing for a company called TodayTix. Our mission is to bring the next generation of cultural lovers to theater. We were app first, and now we're app and web, selling tickets to musicals, plays, improv, comedy, ballet, dance, opera in about 10 markets in the US and UK.
Hey, Mark Atier. I'm the CSO of Clarity Money. We launched 3 months ago. We're a personal finance app, PFM, focused on the data-driven insights we can get you from knowing where you spend your money, things you can do on the app, canceling subscriptions, getting your credit score, getting a better credit card, and opening a saving account, and many other.
Which is awesome, yeah. I'm Mike. I work with 2 companies, Learn with Homer and Speakaboos. We create and run 2 apps that are focused on bringing a love of reading and teaching kids how to learn to read in a way that's adaptive to them, puts them at the center. And so we really focus on really just creating a bunch of young learners that'll do well in life because of their love of reading.
Ben, I work on the marketing team at SeatGeek. We're based here in the city, been around since 2009. I've been there since 2012. Was the first marketing hire. Worked on acquisition, retention. We're an app for sports, concerts, theater, ticketing for all kinds of live events, basically.
Awesome, thank you. We have a little competition on the stage, which is nice. A lot of people have pointed that out to us as if we didn't know beforehand, so we appreciate that.
It's friendly competition.
Yeah. I wanted to ask just like a very rapid-fire quick question. We represent a wide swath of apps here, and there's a lot of different people in the room. I'd like to know for each of you individually, what's the most important KPI for you?
I think for us, it's essentially cost to acquire customer over LTV ratio by market. I mean, when we launch a new market, it takes a while. Theater's completely different city by city. So theater's way different in New York than it is in Chicago, than it is in San Francisco. And so we're trying to kind of go in, get to know the market. The LTV is very different for an improv comedy customer versus a Broadway customer. So trying to figure out for a new market that I can justify that I'm able to acquire customers in a way that's going to be ROI positive for the company at the highest of levels. At the highest of levels,
but I think you need a calculus degree or at least a protractor to be able to calculate that. Let's work our way down.
For us, it's the number of linked accounts per user. A lot of what we do is, we try to have, an overhauled view of all your finances. So the more you link accounts, the better we can kind of drive insights for you. So we really focus on that, and I think that's something that's super important in order to make very, wise and data-driven decisions. We really need to know exactly what kind of, your net worth, where you spend your money across different credit cards or different accounts, whether you have a mortgage or not, whether you have student debt or not, and so on and so forth. So we really focus on that. Yeah.
Okay, so it's very engagement driven for you as opposed to rev.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll give kind of like 2 answers in one. I'd say as a company, our main KPI is acquisition ratio by source. So, customer acquisition cost for us can change depending upon the source, and it really depends on what the expected lifetime value is from that source. For instance, we're a subscription product, so if a source is going to give us somebody who will stay with us for 3 years, our customer acquisition cost can be much higher to achieve some of our goals because the customer lifetime value is so much longer. But on the user level, it's week 2 retention for us. That's really something that is a really big indicator of whether or not they're going to take their trial, turn into a subscriber. And so as a user, on a user level, that is a really big indicator of success for us, and we really drive a lot of the engagement to make sure that happens.
All right, so that's important. You're looking at the early engagement stuff. I think a lot of us are always talking about LTV and dollars, how much we're making, but it's doing that predictive analytics where you can determine, I think there's a high likelihood that this person is going to be the one I want.
Yeah.
Ben?
I think everybody's covered it pretty much. Agree with everything.
But it's about you, Ben. What's the most important for you?
I guess if I'm being sort of strictly adhering to the spirit of the question, the most important thing I think is what Sarah said, which is we look at how much it costs to acquire a customer and how that relates to what we believe their LTV will be over the course of their lifetime. But in practice, it's really hard to know over the course of a lifetime, what a cohort of users we acquired yesterday is going to be worth. So that's when it's important to look at the derivatives like Mike talked about, like early signals of engagement and activation, stuff like that.
So what's an early signal of engagement for you?
We look at activation rate, so basically the percentage of a cohort that have made a purchase.
That made a purchase, and usually for that high value cohort, is someone making a purchase the first time they enter the app or the website, or is it 2, 3 searches? What is it?
Not for SeatGeeks, is just based on the nature of the way people attend live events. Usually the inner purchase interval is longer, like 3 or 4 months naturally. So, and it really depends on sort of the quality of interest of the acquisition source. So like someone who's on SEM searching for Knicks tickets has a pretty specific interest, but if someone's on Facebook just cruising and we hit them with the same Knicks ad, they still might not be as likely to purchase like in that moment, but we'll try to acquire the app install and then remarket to them later and activate them in that way.
Okay. So your early engagement's 3 to 4 months out, whereas for Mike, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So you can see it's a wide variety of engagement metrics and KPIs the way I'll look at it, and I think this is a really important factor to take away. I mean, most people in this room are really skilled and have been doing this a long time, but it's about identifying those early engagement metrics to determine what you're going to do with your marketing budgets, what you're going to do with your app, and then that way you can get out in front of it and you're not just guessing, which I think is what performance marketing is all about, right? So you don't have to guess anymore. All right, let's ask some specific questions. I'm gonna kick off with Mike. You wrote an article a little while ago about the importance of clean mobile UX, right? It was a poker tournament website was lacking a mobile optimized website, so you couldn't even activate, you couldn't engage with it even if you wanted to. In your opinion, what feature aspect of the Learning with Homer app, of that mobile UX, allows for higher engagement and higher ARPU?
Yeah, it's a little early to admit the degenerate gambler in me, but
I mean, let's just put it out on the table. You know,
if anybody has a game, let me know. I'm really interested. I think it's just a combination of knowing a lot about your customers in general and having that kind of targeted cost. Like, you know who your customer is at like a base level. For us, it's moms usually. And they have kids ages 2 to 8. They're operating on a certain area. They live in a certain geo, or they have like a certain operating system on their phone. So it's kind of anticipating what they want and then making your experience, especially at the beginning, accustomed to them so that they have a good time with it. They know what they're doing, and then you can actually lead them on the journey that you want to give them. So, one of the things that we can do to do that is onboarding, especially like making sure that your onboarding has, not only just like the features you want to say. And I think Duolingo mentioned this earlier too. It's great if you think it looks good. It's great if people say it looks great. All that matters is that they finish it. All that matters is that they start up for the trial. All that matters is that if you really want to go gamble and play poker, you're able to spend that money and lose all of it. So I think there's, and there's a lot of data. A lot of apps have analytics platforms. You can look through your business intelligence tools. You can create, all sorts of maps and just kind of optimizing that to reach your goals. And for us, it's like a trial start, or we'll look at features that we know signal higher week 2 engagement and put those at the front of like the onboarding screen so that we set ourselves up for success.
So what's one feature that you think makes it easier for them to buy?
For us, it's like reminders, stuff like that. But I think for like other people too.
Is that just normal push notifications or something within the app?
Yeah, I mean, so you never really know. I think who did a great, Amplitude did a great retention playbook. And one of their examples was Meditation app. Meditation app, their value they thought they brought to users was the meditation. 15 minutes, you'll be calm. This is what people want. In reality, they had a small segment of their users who had great retention, used it a ton, and what those users did that nobody else did was create reminders. So it wasn't necessarily that it was the peaceful, calm speech or that it was the nice music. It was the reminder that really gave them a lot of value. And for moms, sometimes it's just, hey, it's Saturday. You want to read, 15 minutes a day.
Something.
Yeah. So it's just that reminder. It's that, hey, your child read this much. Things like that. Cool. So notifications are big.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. This is starting with you, Sarah, but it also involves you, Ben. Okay. So when I look at Today Ticks and also SeatGeek, I see a portal. Like I see an e-commerce portal, log in, go buy something, right? I search it out, I go buy it. But for Today Ticks, I know you're also doing more of a content play, right? Mm-hmm. So from your perspective, then Ben, I'd like to get your perspective as well. How do you make content strategy part of a larger e-commerce strategy? How do you make it so that you're getting max dollars while at the same time making people feel like you're not necessarily selling to them? You're creating a place for them to come hang out.
I think for us, this is where it makes it much easier that we're a niche play, because we can own a part of your live event experience. So being in theater, it's really about kind of us being authentic theater people. So we were founded by two theater producers who themselves were so frustrated with the ticketing process for people. And theater tickets at that time lived on, half on Telecharge, half on Ticketmaster. There were discount codes some places on the website, on the web that you could go find. And they really just wanted to centralize all of that. And what we found really early on was that what people were using our app for, and I love the example of the meditation app. I loved that presentation, and I've actually referenced it myself speaking before. But what we discovered was that people were actually using our app just to see what was playing this week, because the interface that my product team had built was, it was really easy to use filters and see what the entry price was for every show in New York that's playing this week. And you could choose, I want to go to a Tuesday evening performance. That didn't exist really. And so we discovered that that was really helpful to people, and it was serving a purpose beyond just them buying through us. In fact, we even in focus groups had people saying, oh yeah, I totally use Today Ticks to figure out what's playing, and then I go buy wherever I go buy. We were like, oh, okay, great. So I think it's been kind of starting there and trying to build on additional content that we know people are looking for. I think, Ben made the point before, someone who's actually searching for tickets has way higher intent than anyone else. And so how do we accommodate those people with content? We've done a lot of looking about, what people are searching for in New York City. And there's, if you were to search how to get cheap Broadway tickets, I think the top hit for a long time was an old Theater Mania article from like 3 years ago. So we take an opportunity like that and say, how can we create content around this that's fresh and that's updating? So that's kind of the least sexy of the content, is really just filling the need that's there. I think from there now, our team is working more and more on how we become like an authoritative source on theater in a different way than already exists. So there's a lot of news outlets, theater news, that those types of sites. We don't have a big enough content team to compete with that. So how can we have our own perspective on it? We launched a podcast this year called Broadway Backstory, which tells the whole story in kind of a documentary format about shows from the minute they were like an idea in someone's head to how they got to Broadway. Our goal is 100,000 downloads of the podcast in our first year, and I'm happy to say that we hit that. And I was really psyched, and proud of my team for getting there. I think that what it said is that it actually was really resonating with people, and we're putting together an even bigger season 2. For the podcast. So that's kind of further out and trying to talk to people about theater and get them excited about theater, and then provide another platform that we can try to eventually sell them on.
Awesome. Now, Ben, I mean, she uses content to push it. How do you guys push it?
Yeah. We have, Sarah and I were talking before this, and sometimes I say that I'm envious of her, that she can focus on a vertical. And it's something that I want to do at SeatGeek, is create more nuanced experiences between sports and concerts and theater and comedy, whatever. But the reality is that we're just kind of spread thin across all those things. So generating a lot of content in the conventional sense for that is pretty difficult. We want to get into it. I think we can probably learn some things from Today Ticks about it. But the thing for us is basically we think about content more often in the sense of like the way that, and this is sort of an arguable point, like Facebook is a content site, Netflix is a content site. And so we think about with our engineering staff, basically, how can we help people achieve the same objective of discovering things, but without actually having authors write things and sort of search arbitrage and things like that. We would just want to create the most personalized experience for customers. So building recommendation engines, improving that is a big focus for us. And I guess that's sort of an oblique answer to content.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, you where you're not specifically or inherently a content place, you're trying to make it so that people can use you as a resource, right? And that's really the idea of content, is they come to you because they want what you have, not just because they want to find a place to buy it. Right. That makes sense. I could dig it. All right. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about money. So first off, congrats to Mark here in Clarity Money. They just announced their Series B, which is a big deal. I think we're all very happy when that happens. But most importantly, it's opening up a little bit for what you can do, right? When you're working with the initial stages, and someone mentioned growth hacking earlier, you got to be a little scrappy. You got to come up with more, out there or outlandish ideas and just figure it out. What's going to change now that you have an injection? I'm assuming that with most Series B, Series C, et cetera, it's used for growth. So what is the anticipation, and what is like one thing you're super excited about with this next round?
I think content is going to end up playing a huge role for us. I mean, if you look at one of our advisors is Dan Ariely, and if you think of his theory, which is that we have so many different choices or options out there when it comes to, I don't know what bank you want to go with or what rental or car insurance you want to go with, but as human beings, we end up opening a depository account right down the street with the branch that's right around the corner. So we're not that complicated. We end up going with the car, or I guess, a car insurance that your local dealership is offering. So I think for us, it's all about those little nudges that Dan Ariely talks about, which is that if we are able to explain to the consumer or the mass consumers the little steps, or maybe take them in a journey of why we think that specific insurance is best for them, or why that specific mortgage is better, the user is more likely to take that action. So I think one thing that we're missing, and hopefully that injection in money is going to help us build a team around it, is the content portion, where we want to explain to the user. So like step one is, yes, your money is going a lot into this category. Step two, here are a few things you can do, and kind of explain to them why and how we came up with that specific decision. The second thing, I guess, obviously, as a team, we're still very, very small. There's about a dozen of us. We really want to grow that team. We're building an Android version as we speak. We're going to have some desktop presence as well. We're strictly on iOS for today, so that's something. And the last portion I would say is we want to add more value to the app. So one of the features that was, and in all honesty, when I joined the team at Clarity Money, they told me, they're going to build a functionality to allow users to open a savings account. Quite frankly, I laughed, because there's a lot of players out there that are doing an amazing job at that specific feature, which is kind of take a sum of money every week, every other week, and put it in one, a savings account. So I didn't think that was one feature that's going to resonate, but we quickly realized, and obviously data told us that it is one of the most utilized feature in our app. So we thought what we could do with that money, and I think the next step is for us to think about how we can allow them to invest in the stock market, for example. Obviously, the stock market is hot right now. It's a hot topic. And there's two ways of doing it. Either we're going to build it ourselves, and hint, we're not going to do it. So we're going to probably partner up with one of the big players out there, and hopefully, a startup, or obviously not a big bank. We're all about transparency, clarity, obviously. So we want to go with a startup that is also trying is about the same mission of really empowering the user and leveraging technology to help the user. So that's something we're looking forward to, and we started working on it, and it's definitely very exciting to not only allow users to save money, or set up a small amount of money aside, but really allow them to use that money for hopefully make make a little bit more on by investing in the stock market. So that's something we want to do. So it's all about this whole experience. We really want to be there when any financial decision that our consumers have to take in their lives. We really want to be there, and the one thing that we can do best is we know exactly what you've been doing with your money for the past year or 2 years, or even longer, and we can therefore make better decisions and more thought of decisions for them. And so cool. Very exciting time for us.
So basically, I've been hearing a lot of different things. We haven't talked so much about specifically marketing spend, but what I'm hearing from a lot of people is features and the content of the app is what you think of first when it comes to growth, right?
Yeah. I mean that's right. For us, I guess we reach approximately 170,000 users in not even 3 months of being out there. And we had a goal of 50,000 by the end of the year, and obviously things change. But I think we realized that we can acquire users. There's a lot of different channels out there that are doing really well for us. Obviously social, ad networks, and so on. But for now, we're focusing on, I think, growth through the product. So we really want to create that community around our product itself and figure out how a feature itself can drive growth rather than just pure, marketing spend. So that's something we're focused on.
Right on. All right, let's do a little quick fire. I think we're getting close on time here, so I'll be somewhat respectful, but not entirely. Let's do quick fire. What's your favorite platform for buying right now? What's the most effective for you? What type of ad unit or channel? What's most effective? One by one. Don't talk at one time.
I would say it's kind of a combination of performance networks that my director of user acquisition is always kind of trying to optimize and find the best. I'd say dynamic carousel type ads where we're able to get multiple products up in front of a potential new user has been really beneficial for us. We've had to kind of figure out how to use them correctly and how to make sure that like pictures aren't getting cropped weird and pricing isn't coming through when everything's a feed and you're not, you can't really QA ads, just making sure that all looks correct. But I think that that's probably some combo of like dynamic ads, video, I think has been really helpful for us. And then performance networks.
Great. Mark?
We haven't tested it yet, but I do think Snapchat is going to be big for us. Last week we got
for money apps. You think Snapchat's
Yeah, absolutely.
And
right. We're going after obviously millennials, a big target audience for us. People who are trying to get serious about their finances, may or may not have one credit card, don't know what the credit score is, or maybe do know what it is, but don't know what theirs is. And so I think Snapchat's going to be good for us, and I'm saying that because we got featured by Mashable last week. For a solid 2 hours, we had no idea where those users were coming from because it wasn't obviously directly tracked. People looked at it on Snapchat, went on Google and elsewhere, and ended up downloading the app. It was by far our best users in terms of the quality, in terms of the conversions, in terms of the actions taken within the app. So that's something I'm personally very excited to spend some money on. And social in general, and I would say video specifically for us. I mean, Clarity Money is not I would say TodayTix or SeatGeek. I mean, we're not that big of a brand yet, and I think explaining what the product is. And one thing that I guess I'll give credits to the team for doing is redesigning a beautiful app. I mean, our competition out there, obviously, we're not even close to that. But if you look at like Mint, for example, I think we do. In all, I guess, trying to be humble here, right? I think we do a better job in terms of UX, UI, and not being an overwhelming app per se. So that's, I guess, video for us and the ability to show some in-app, I guess, footage is something that's doing really well. And looking forward to Snapchat and any other, I guess, video platform.
Cool. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, our most successful user acquisition, usually comes from where everybody else does. Social. For us, because of our audience being parents, most of the time moms, Pinterest has been really great for us. We have a good relationship with them too, so we were working with their beta for a while. And we can't spend enough money there, to be honest. So those are two of them. I would say in general, though, our best user acquisition happens when we have our social video game and some of those carousel units as well down. And combine that with some general awareness and prospecting at the top. So a lot of our social and digital conversion rates, the cost per install or getting the people to install the app, generally about the same, maybe a little bit of improvement. Where we really see a big effect of having some of those kind of awareness things, TV, podcasts like that. Those really help install to trial rates, so conversion rates. And so when we attribute those back to those channels, those are also really good drivers for us too. So,
Ben, you've been at this almost 5 years now. What was your favorite then? What's your favorite now?
I mean, Facebook, when Facebook first released its mobile app install ads, was just green pastures.
Oh, you use Facebook for installs?
That was a wild frontier at one time. I missed those days a little bit. But today, I think some of the most exciting stuff we're working on is podcast, which Mike mentioned. That's been big for us. And
I actually know podcasts because of you. Yeah. So thank you.
It's
Don't
natural
tell
for
too
us.
many people.
Yeah. There's a lot of, especially for the sports podcasts, if you look at the top 10, we're pretty deep in all of them. So apologies to all sports podcast listeners for giving you ear cancer. The other thing is influencer marketing has been really big for us. We have 2 people full-time dedicated to that now, and giving and getting really big responses from it. Just built up sort of a network of influencers in-house. It's been received pretty well.
Awesome. I think we've got 1 minute. That was a very casual 1 minute sign given to me. So let's go with the last one. So there's always the question of, okay, more and more apps are coming in. It's a really hard fought win nowadays. So with that in mind, right, there's more and more people trying to get the same users. The pie is not necessarily getting bigger at this point, right? Smartphone penetration is basically at its peak in most developed countries. So what is one thing you're each doing in terms of retention, re-engagement, retargeting? What are you doing to make sure people stay in there?
I think one of the big things that's been successful for us has been mobile rush and lottery for theater. So Rent was one of the first shows on Broadway in New York City that piloted a rush program, which is essentially people could come line up at like 6 in the morning and they held a certain number of seats in the front row for $20. It was kind of an access program. So we spent a long time when we first launched in 2013 pitching to Broadway shows saying, listen, we get that you love like the hubbub under your marquee at 6 in the morning and like the 30 people that walk by think you're really popular, but what if you took that onto social media? And Facebook and Twitter, I agree, used to be great for app installs. Now I'd say we use it more for awareness and kind of getting using our mobile rush and lottery. You get an extra entry if you share on social. So it's been a really great awareness tool for us and drives down our user acquisition rates, but it also improves our registration rates by like 4x in new markets. So when we launched in San Francisco, we had a certain registration rate. We launched our first mobile rush with a SHN, which is the big theater in San Francisco, and immediately our registration rates were like quadrupled. So I think that that's kind of something that allows us to gamify the experience and let people come back and play even when they're not totally ready to go to a show. I think the painful thing about theater is kind of what Ben alluded to before. The usage interval is like months. So how do you get someone excited in between? It's difficult.
That's cool. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we really think of, I guess, a lot of what we do is very transactional, where you can go on the app, cancel a subscription, and you're not going to go on, go back the next day and make sure that there's no other subscriptions just popped up. But for us, it's about, I guess, providing value when it comes to the insights and the things that we can drive, knowing obviously where your money is going. So things like, we noticed some fraud, for example. There's a duplicate in one of your transactions. You're running low on balance. So those are the things, obviously, that are going to get people to come back. But some other things we're doing is, if you look over, at our app, it's very Instagram-like in the way that we call them tiles or features. But for us, we just call them tiles. So we're going to allow the users to reorder those, or like maybe kill one tile or the other, but really make them feel like it's their go-to to figure out what's going on with their finances. I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't, go all the way and say we want to compete with like Chase in terms of like, we don't want people to go on the app, on Chase to like look for whatever information they're looking for and go to Clarity Money, but that's something that is already happening. I mean, personally speaking, I can go on Clarity looking for one specific transaction. It's much, much faster, and I can look at it. I can look at a transaction across all my different, accounts or credit cards. They're not that many, but still, I think it's just, a faster way to do that. Some other things we're doing is, for example, we're allowing you now to like track, I don't know how much you've spent on Uber for the past year, so that's something that users, we're hoping it's going to be live next week. We're a little bit late for tax season, but we're trying our best. But I think it's just continually, provide value to the users. Obviously, reinforce our PFM, personal finance management tool, and make it better, nicer, and more personalizable. But it's, again, about the insights and the things that we can tell our users that they just simply didn't know about.
So personalization, customization. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, I'd say upfront, it's all about like data capture at the right time. So we ask like our parents who are starting the trial about like how old their kid is, and we can get them to give like the kid's first name, things like that. And based on that, we can do two things. We can really create some sort of behavioral like push or make push a little bit better, notify them about engagement, and try to like increase that week 2 retention number. And the other thing we do, and we just launched, is like a recommendation engine. And that's done like a really, really good job of just making sure like, hey, this is what this child likes this. Let's build something that he'll like, or let him or her read something that they like, and that gets them more engagement on the platform. When we collect all that data and start to build a path for them that's like for them. So it's these kind of data captures up front that we use to make it more personal. So
Awesome.
that's kind of it. Yeah.
Wrap us up, Ben.
Yeah. I'll say that sort of an obvious answer, I guess. For us, the biggest difference in the past year has been the simple good practice of like dedicating people to focus on retention, right? So like in the history of our marketing team, it was really easy and tempting to like always be acquiring more customers, always be like adding new incremental features. But the change we made in the last like 9 months is just hiring people on the marketing team dedicated to retention. So not even, at the start, not doing anything like revolutionary, just like focusing on email, push notifications, your sort of basic non-sexy channels. But I think it was said on the stage earlier, like optimizing that stuff is extremely worth it. So I would just say putting people on it, and people that don't have like an acquisition number over their head, just get them to focus on retention, give them a KPI that's like retention and activation rates, and let them run wild.
Perfect. Thank you all very much. I think we're firmly out of time. Do we have time for questions? Nope, no questions. You all get to miss out on that, but thank you all for your time. We really appreciate it.